People are crying. People who haven't cried for years. My name is Mohammed Motala. I am the Executive Director at NACOSA. NACOSA is the network community of HIV and AIDS South Africa. It is a network of community-based organizations across the country that works to overcome AIDS and prevent the spread of HIV. The impact has been devastating, right through to organizations like NACOSA, where I had to lay off 150 people directly. And in the smaller community-based organizations that we support, 680 people had to be staying at home. So that's the direct impact. These individuals that work at NACOSA and in the community-based organizations themselves come from distressed households. Often a single parent, they're a young woman, they are also supporting a household budget. It was late January, it was in February. That's the time when they are paying their school fees, and they couldn't go home to their families to tell them, how am I going to pay school fees, or how are we going to manage the budget at the end of this month? So it impacted heavily on those staff. But more than that, amongst the beneficiaries, they don't know where their medicine is going to come from. They don't know how they are going to be getting to the hospital. They don't know the kind of, where is the support, the treatment. There's shock in the system now. So you wake up one morning and there is a letter that comes from Washington saying that your program is suspended. You wake up 2 days later and you find out that your program hasn't been suspended. It's been terminated. So now you have to completely shift from a suspended program to a terminated program. You wake up the next day and you get a letter talking about a waiver, that there are certain aspects of your program for which care and treatment, essential services, there's a waiver. You then frantically try to find people who are suspended or who have been terminated from work, and you're trying to get them to work on now what would a program, a core program that has a waiver look like, and put in a budget for that, only to wake up a few days later and get another letter that says, sorry, but these waivers, there's no waiver and you are getting terminated. So there's such chaos and confusion in the system as to how and what is being communicated to organizations like NACOSA, and I am having to communicate that internally and to the organizations that we are supporting. People are crying. People who haven't cried for years. Myself, as a person who had to deal with this and look at the lists of people that are not going to get services, to look at the lists of people that I have to retrench and take decisions. I saw the faces of the people. I know some of their backgrounds. I know the families in which they live. I've spent time with them understanding the hardships, and I've made promises to them around improving their lives. And I had to decide as to which ones I will continue keeping and working at NACOSA, which beneficiaries. I had to take decisions around these children will get services and those who won't. There are people whose household budgets have collapsed. They are having to take their children out of school. They are having to not give their parents and the older generation that they support any more money to support food in those households. So it's having a direct impact on people's lives. My fear is that what we experienced in the late 90s and early 2000s, when AIDS was ravaging the country, people were dying in our families and in our communities. You would go on the weekends and there would be multiple burials taking place at graveyards. The spectra of that for me looms, because with us now, we were about to meet the 2030 targets. We were going to meet our 95 targets on prevention. All of that is now being rolled back. And in my mind, I had visions of what was happening in the country in the late 90s and early 2000s when death and devastation was all around us. Nobody who works in this sector is sleeping at the moment. So I do believe that self-reliance, I do believe that countries picking up the slack, I do believe that our fiscus, and I do believe that we as a country have gone a long way and should be taking over. The problem is the way in which it was done and the shock method. It was just, boom, here it is. We were on the way to transitioning out of the amount of money we get from PEPFAR and USA. That's well known. That, many years back we were 100% dependent, and now we were 16% dependent. So the way forward is a proper transition.